So good morning, everybody. My name is Pascal Grevrat. I am working for Nestlé, and I am also the co-chair of the European Food Sustainable Consumption and Production Roundtable, which I will introduce to you this morning, which has been mentioned several times by Michele as a kind of prototype. And the aim of my presentation today is to see with you if it's a prototype which could be replicated by other sectors. I will so introduce the roundtable. Sorry. Then, in particular, present particular work of the one working group 1. I am pleased to welcome in the room Jean-Christophe Bligny, who is the co-chair of Working Group 1, who has been instrumental in developing the ENVI-Food Protocol, which is a harmonized methodology for the food and drink sector in Europe. And I will present the protocol and finally the link between the ENVI-Food Protocol, the roundtable, and the current PEF testing, which has been already addressed by Michele, but I will maybe come into more details. My ambition, as it was asked by Guido, why finally I came here today, is first to share with you as much as possible, but to also share with you what we have done and convince you that, as it was said also, the best way to progress is to make it in a transparent way, and that's what we have done with this roundtable. There is a lot of questions about LCAs, about the feasibility, the cost, the availability of data, and so on. So you know it better than me. You are all LCA experts here, consultants, or from companies, or from governments. And the best way to answer this question is to try, to do. It's often said we have to walk the talk. But in my case, I would rather say now we have to talk the walk. We have walked a lot in the roundtable, and now we have to talk, to share, and see how we can bring that forward. That's why I came, and I thank you for the invitation. So, as it was said also some years ago already in the food sector, we noticed a lack of harmonized methodology regarding the assessment of food and drinks product, and at the same time the emergence of many initiatives, sometimes driven by member states like France, or sometimes driven by private sector like retailers, Tesco in UK, Casino in France, and others. And of course, for the food and drink chain stakeholders, not only industry, but also all the companies involved in the food chain, it was not possible to leave or to just let the landscape evolving like that with a completely chaotic development of different methodologies, which would, in any case, have resulted in a huge cost and finally to the failure of the information, development of such information systems to our consumers. So, it was often said at that time the aim is to have sustainable consumption, but in the end it was rather sustainable confusion. And so we thought it's necessary to take measures and not just talk, but also to act. So we created in 2009, similar to the forum here, the European Food SCP Roundtable. We, as a Food Drink Europe, the European Food Industry Association, approached the different stakeholders along the food chain, from farmers to packaging manufacturers, feed also manufacturers, retailers, and also NGOs. And we launched in May 2009 the European Food SCP Roundtable, which is an industry-led initiative, and involving also now today 21 food chain associations, so they're representing their respective sector. And we also welcome the CIVI Consortium as a member. And quite rapidly, the European Commission approached us and asked if they could also participate in this roundtable, which seemed to them to be promising. And of course, we welcome them. And now we have 4 directorate generals which are involved, even 5 if we had agriculture somehow. And so the European Commission is co-chairing this organization. The principle, as I said at the beginning, is that businesses rely on trust of consumers. In our countries, we have the choice of products. Here in this location, it was maybe not the case 30 years ago, but now it's like that also. There is a free competition. So how do we sell product is by providing information and building trust with consumers. And to build trust with consumers, we need to provide them with reliable information, which is credible and reliable, understandable, and not misleading. And that's why, definitely, we need such an harmonized methodology so that we can, the consumer can, based on this result, his choice when he buys a product. And also, another reason is for us then to improve continuously our products. But ultimately, we don't compete on the methodology. What we need is one methodology. Then there will be competition to have the best products, for sure, but not the best methodology, I think. We need one harmonized methodology which is recognized and accepted by everybody. So the roundtable had three main objectives: establish assessment methodology for food and drinks, also identify tools and guidance for voluntary communication, which is because the ultimate goal is to communicate to our consumers, and also promote continuous improvement. And as I said, so far we've been able to deliver according to plan. The first year we published our principles, the 10 principles of the roundtable on both assessment and communication. In 2011, we released our report on how to communicate environmental performance along the food chain. 1 year later, a report on what are the hotspots on the food chain along the different according to different environmental impacts. So because from the beginning we didn't focus on carbon only, because for food and drinks it's obvious that carbon only is misleading. So you cannot just consider carbon for food and drink products because of the agriculture dimension, and in particular the role of water. But that I think it's clear for everybody now. It was maybe not so clear 5 years ago, but now it's clear. And then last year we launched the testing of the ENVIFood protocol, which is a harmonized methodology for food and drink, and it will be published officially at the end of the year. So that's the governance of the different working groups in the roundtable. So what has been doing this, how this methodology has been developed, ENVIFood protocol? It's based on the 10 guiding principles, which have been first issued in 2010. There's been a lot of work. Many of you have participated in this work. I discussed yesterday with some of you who have been involved in this working group 1. So you see a lot of also members from also member states, industry, NGOs, from all over Europe, because again the objective is still transparency and kind of consensus building. So the protocol itself, it's a methodological framework for the environmental assessment of food and drink products. It gives guidance on how to use life cycle assessment methodology when you assess food and drink products. It gives guidance on what issues need to be further addressed in PCRs. It covers what the functional units, what are the boundaries, data quality requirements and dealing with data gaps, handling multifunctional process, environmental impact categories. So if you want to see more details, it's all publicly available on the site of the website of the roundtable. How is it positioned vis-à-vis the PEF, for instance, and ISO? We consider that, if you want, at the top there is the ISO standard on life cycle assessment, which is global, universal, and generally accepted. That's the benefit of the ISO approach. Then at European level, for the time being only, but it may evolve, hopefully, we have the PEF, which covers all the consumer goods, food and non-food. And as a specific for food and drink product, we have the ENVIFood protocol. And finally, at category level, we have PCRs. And the ambition which the roundtable has on its members, on the industry, food industry, is that all that be aligned, so that it's expandable globally, and also there is full consistency, as I said at the beginning, to have a reliable, understandable information to the consumer. That it's the same approach when you are in Germany, you are in China, or ultimately, or you are in US, or you are in Switzerland. Okay, and within one category there is this. So this is basically, if you want to summarize, how we see the different links between the different methodologies publicly available for the time being. Okay. So what is the process of development of the protocol? It started 2010, but what is interesting is now there's been a public consultation this year, sorry. It's closed now. There is a testing ongoing of the protocol with products, both in terms of assessment and in terms of communication, and it will be fine-tuned and finalized before the end of the year. So the details, pilot test, it was launched in March. There's been webinars, forums. So end of September, so some days ago, it was the end of the pilot test. And currently, there is an evaluation of the results done by the roundtable, meaning also a significant involvement of the Joint Research Center in ISPRA, with where they have, as you know, a team of specialists who are co-chairing the working group 1. And the 20th of November, it will be the annual assembly of the roundtable in Brussels, and then the final version, for the time being, of the Envifood protocol will be published then. Okay. So who participated in the testing? We have 19 consortia or groups, if we want, who have participated. Interestingly, to support what Michele said, pilot testers are coming from many countries. From Hungary, from Spain, from Italy, from Sweden, Switzerland, and Carlsberg, Italia, again, so, and not only France. So it shows there is an interest for this type of development all over the EU and even beyond. I can tell you, the roundtable has been invited by the Australian government to come there and to explain what is happening in Europe, and the same in US with a big retail chain in US, and also we have been even approached by consultants mandated by the Chinese government, and so it triggers a lot of interest, not only for environmental reasons, also for some economical fears, I would say, from these countries, that all this may well end up in kind of trade barriers, and so it creates some concerns. But also, that's good. So what will be the role of the roundtable in the PEF? Our ambition is to support the PEF as much as possible, because we have seen the pyramid, so it's our interest that the PEF is a success, especially the second wave. So PEF and Envifood protocol are and will remain aligned. Objectives are common. To test the food protocol, it's also an opportunity to further test the protocol and to ensure its full alignment with the PEF as regards the food sector. The governance, it has been shown already by Michele, and so how will concretely the roundtable will contribute to the PEF? It will contribute to the work of the steering committee, also of the technical advisory group, based on its experience with the 19 pilots which will have been completed at the end of the year and evaluated, and provide also technical support, building on its experience. Pilot may be led by business associations which are members of the roundtable. We think it's a good way to ensure the representativeness of a sector. Could be dairy federation, coffee federation, pet food federation, so that there is it covers the entire sectors, including the SMEs which are members of these sectors. The roundtable will also contribute to identify and maybe coordinate PECRs due to its broad membership covering the entire food chain. And ultimately help in the evaluation of the results and also keep the members of the roundtable informed. So, to conclude, to answer the question, is the roundtable prototype for efficient implementation of PEF at sector level? I would say yes, definitely, because it's not just talk. We have done this testing, and we started even before the PEF was mentioned, because of real business needs, which ensures that it's not it's driven by business. It's not driven by a kind of opportunistic jump on initiative, because it was launched before even the PEF was existing. And so the roundtable, which represents the food chain, has already an harmonized and commonly agreed methodology, also co-shared, yes, with the Commission. And it can provide support with a pilot, which have been developed so far, 19th. And all the testers are, of course, prepared to participate in the PEF testing and share their experience and enrich somehow the testing of the second wave of the PEF. So I say, yes, it's a prototype, but for the other sectors, it's maybe a little bit late, because we started 4 years ago.